So this week, I kind of decided what I was going to talk about through just looking at the different topics that have come up so far in the channel. And one of the things that I found quite striking, and I don't know if anyone else will notice, but to me it seemed as though one of the big concerns people have is identity and the self. Our society right now is all about that. It's all about uniqueness and all about individuality and all about showing yourself off, and it's really kind of perpetuated through capitalism. I kind of wanted to talk about it specifically in relation to Tumblr. So when we were talking about community the other week, one of the things that someone said, I can't remember who exactly it was, but someone was saying something about how in the Western world we're kind of told to not rely on anyone else, that we can do it on our own. It's all about being self-sufficient, and through that we've kind of lost community. I think it's something that nowadays it's kind of starting to become, it's kind of coming back into the consciousness of society where we look for community. But I think for a long time now it's kind of been coming to a head, being pushed through capitalism, this idea of identity and individuality and self-reliance and independence and all of that. And the thing that I think is really interesting about it is how we rely on other people at the same time. It's kind of fucked up because we're all trying to express ourselves as individuals, but generally the Western world is very insecure, and that's all done through advertising. We're told that we need to buy certain clothes and buy certain products and look a certain way because if we do that then we'll be good enough, and if you do that then you're an individual and you're a free thinker. So we do all of these things, but we need the recognition and acceptance by society. We kind of, the world is turned into one big popularity contest, and that's the thing I think is really funny about it. You think about social media, and especially for me, thinking about Tumblr, I think Tumblr is so interesting, how it works and what it kind of says about us as people these days, especially how the majority of users on Tumblr are very young, in their teens. And when I look at the kids these days who are on Tumblr, and I think when I was at that age how startlingly different it is. They have such an awareness of appearance, and like if I think about fashion sense, like when I was like 16 years old, I had none. I didn't know what the fuck it was. And then I look at kids these days, they're dressed like such hipsters, and they're so aware of themselves, they're so overly aware. But if you think about the structure of Tumblr, what the basic concept of it is that you have a blog where you express yourself, and there's endless possibilities of how a blog could look. So everyone is an individual, and it's all about expressing that individuality. It's all about telling people who you are. This blog sums you up as a person for a random stranger on the other side of the world to see. But the way in which you show everyone who you are is primarily through reblogging pictures that someone else has reblogged. So the popularity contest comes in because everyone's trying to get the most notes on their stuff. You post a picture of yourself, you take a selfie, and you're like, look at me, look how individualistic I am with my clothes that I'm wearing out of American Apparel, and I'm wearing Ray-Bans, and I'm wearing Vans shoes, and I'm wearing Levi, and I'm doing all of these things. And look how unique I am, and look how beautiful I am. And then you wait for all of the notes to show up of people liking it, or people replying to you, or people reblogging you. And there's the reliance on that, the popularity contest and stuff. And then you're reblogging pictures that you think are interesting looking. One of the things I've noticed on Tumblr with these sort of trendy blogs is that they'll post a lot of art. So I'll often see someone, one artist off the top of my head, Wolfgang Tillmans, who's very trendy at the moment, and he's regarded as a fine artist. He's done very well in his career so far. He's respected in the art world, And then you see a 16-year-old posting a picture of Wolfgang Tillmans because it's trendy and because they aren't appreciating it as a piece of art. They're not even looking at the piece of art, they're looking at a picture of the piece of art and they think it looks good, and they think it looks impressive, and in some ways they can tap into what the artist was trying to convey with their work or something. I think they'll get a very basic appreciation of what it is. So they'll reblog it and they'll put it on their blog. And you'll see pictures with hundreds of thousands of notes. So hundreds of thousands of people have got this picture on their blog. And it's just so contradictory to this supposed idea that you're an individual. You're not an individual. There is the possibility of being an individual because you can post anything you want. But everyone's reblogging. So you're borrowing parts from someone else and putting all of these borrowed parts into your own blog, and then this is me, and I'm so unique. And Tumblr is very addictive. I mean, I get really addicted to it, but yeah, I think it's really interesting. And I don't know where this conversation is going to end up. It could end up fucking somewhere else entirely, but I just wanted to kind of chat about it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing everyone else. So get chatting, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.
Hey everyone. I think Finn brought up a really good point. I was thinking a lot about identity for the past year or so. Identity and the ego specifically, and I think human beings are really all about identity, and we really like to attach ourselves to different identities, and it's really our ego just identifying ourselves and latching onto them. And they're kind of endless. I could say, oh, I'm Japanese, I like doing art, I'm an artist, and etc., etc. It just keeps building on. And I'm really thinking about how it's just creating an image for our ego. Thinking about Tumblr has made me realize it's really all about identity and creating an image. And I myself don't like it when people in person find my Tumblr, and there are a handful of people I know in person who follow it, and at first it feels really awkward and really uncomfortable for me, and I think it's because Tumblr is the only place where I actually write about my thoughts and my feelings and more personal posts. I actually met one of my Tumblr friends kind of recently, and we have been interacting through our Tumblrs for maybe a year or two, and we both write kind of personal thoughts and show that side of ourselves through our Tumblrs. And so when I met them in person, we were talking about how for these 2 years we had only seen each other's side through unspoken words. And so spoken words were really unfamiliar to us. And so when we talked in person, it was so much more different from the idea we had of each other through Tumblr. So that was kind of interesting to me. Eventually we were able to create a space where we could talk to each other about our inner thoughts, and that's something I had never really done with someone before. So Finn brought up this really interesting topic about Western culture and American culture, and for me, on Tumblr, I follow a lot of Asian blogs, and primarily people from Japan or from Asia, so I get to see that side of Tumblr that maybe other people don't. And I'm also half Japanese, so I kind of understand Asian culture a little bit more, particularly Japanese culture. Japanese culture focuses a lot on conformity, and they're really, really tied onto that. And Western culture is far more onto individuality. But Japan is all about fitting into the norm through conformity and dressing like others. And with fashion, it's just really people looking alike. They kind of look like clones, honestly. And if you don't dress like others in Japan, you immediately stand out and kind of are looked down upon. Example me, I'm not like the other girls in Japan who are very, very feminine. They all dress the same. Right now, certain trends are like floral dresses and such, and the same kind of hairstyle, same hair color, and same eye makeup. They're all about wearing fake eyelashes and putting a heavy load of makeup on their eyes, and I am nothing like that. So when I'm in these areas full of those kinds of people, I stand out a lot. For example, I went to this mall in Japan called Paruko, and it's really for more upper class people who have a lot of money. And I was on this one floor which was completely about gyarus. If you know in Japanese culture, that's kind of a fashion style. And so every store on that floor was all about floral dresses and such. And literally everyone on that floor looked the same. And it was really uncomfortable because I was completely different, and people kind of gave me the look like, you don't belong here. And I was really just there because there was a coffee shop. But anyways, there's a lot of discrimination because I don't fit the standards of the identities today. Also, Japanese fashion is all about trends, and they go in and out really fast. Maybe for half a year or to a year, a certain fashion will be in style, and once that year's over, it's completely gone. And same with little keychain gadgets and new cartoon characters out. They last for a very, very short time, so you have to be constantly up to date. In America, I feel like people don't really care how you dress as much as Japanese people do. Like in America, if you dress differently than other people, people don't really care about it. But in Japan, if someone dresses differently, they do care, and they kind of talk behind your back about it. I follow a lot of younger people, or I see a lot of younger people between the ages of 12 to 16, and I'm always surprised by how well put together they are and how adult-like they look. I was looking at pictures of myself between the ages of 12 to 16, and I look nothing like the kids of these days between those ages, and it's really shocking. I had massive hair, just really terrible looking, super curly, I had really baggy clothes, nothing really looked fitting on me, not stylish at all. I was completely ignorant of the fashion world. I didn't care about it at all, but I still went out in public like that, and it didn't bother me because no one gave me judgment upon how I looked that way. But nowadays, I feel like if I were to dress up like that, I would get judged a lot. People nowadays are so into the fashion world and consumed into the fashion world or into the consumerist world, and it's a little bit scary, honestly. And, even though I was kind of ugly back then, I sometimes wish I could go back to how careless I was at the time. Because now I'm much more into the fashion world and into the consumerist world than I used to be. And I don't really see it as a positive thing necessarily. I've become much more superficial by becoming an active part of the consumerist world. Being part of both American and Japanese culture, I feel that I've been brainwashed into thinking that I had to look a certain way or appear a certain way to feel belonged, and I am definitely guilty of that, even through Tumblr, because I wanted to be up in the standards of the fashion world today. And it's kind of sad, actually. I think we've lost touch with ourselves. When I think about identity, I think about how on the surface we're all similar and have similar interests, and when you dig deeper into yourself, into who you are, then I think we're all unique and different. And I just think we need to focus less on the surface and touch more into our inner self to see who we really are. Identity really just sticks on the surface to me.
Hey there! Today we're talking about Tumblr, which I'm really keen to talk about because I am an avid Tumblr user. I go on it like every day. It's taking over my life. Not really. I really enjoy it. I have it on my phone too, which reasons for using it have changed over the years. So when I first got it, I kind of just reblogged things that I liked. And as the years progressed, I decided I felt more comfortable to get a bit more personal. So I would say I maybe use it as a collection of things that I like and things that interest me, ranging from like music to people's hair types and clothes. Clothes is a huge thing on Tumblr. Like, I've gone to the city and seen people who have clearly been inspired by Tumblr. So I think it's definitely defined style in that sense, like, hugely. People are really comfortable being nude on Tumblr. I don't have anyone nude on Facebook, and yet Tumblr, an abundance of boobs everywhere. Got no problem with that. I can completely agree with what Fionn said about using Tumblr as a means of expression of oneself. I feel like the trendy blogs feel really transparent and generic. It's almost reflective of the culture rather than the person behind the blog, and it kind of blurs the line. I can't really tell who I'm looking at. It's just a bunch of really pretty trendy pictures all compiled into one place. Almost like a mask, and it's hard to tell who's being sincere and who's genuinely interested in all the things. I also agree with what Fionn said about Wolfgang Tillmans' art. I mean, I've seen that kind of thing a lot. Maria Abramovich is a great example of artists whose work is like thrashed on Tumblr. And do the people who are posting it know much about the artist or what they intended for the artwork to talk about? They might know, but when there's a consecutive pattern of teenagers just blogging trendy things, makes you think twice. So part of me feels irritated that I'm seeing all these pictures. Yeah, like, these artists have really profound things to talk about, and then you're just seeing their pictures loosely posted like it's nothing. Yeah, I guess this is a little bit of a tangent. But on a more positive note, I guess seeing these pictures on people's blogs is kind of insightful for them. Maybe they didn't know about these artists before now, so seeing them on someone else's blog is kind of generating interest or opening their eyes to something that they didn't know about, which is also really great, because at the end of the day, it's an internet exchange of things, whether it's interests or music or poetry. People are sharing things, and yeah, it's great to share things. I have a really weird issue with people that I know from real life seeing my Tumblr. I guess Tumblr for me feels just like a place where I can get away and be myself. And, like, for instance, Facebook and Tumblr. Most Tumblr users know it's two separate places. I have a few Facebook friends on Tumblr, so it's not a big deal because they generally have the same interests as me. But in saying that, I wouldn't let my grandma look at my Tumblr. Even the people I follow who I see are following some other person who's Tumblr famous. It does seem like a popularity contest. It's not all about how many notes you can get or how many times you can reblog something. Hip to be a square, apparently. Well, it's a really easily accessible place to go when you want to find things that you like, or mainly find things that you like. I think there's got to be that line where people are happy to be free to be themselves rather than to mimic the current trends. And despite not knowing many of those people, I get the impression that a lot of them, particularly the younger users, are just following trends. And it's a little bit sad, because I guess when you're that age, you want to feel validated. And when you're behind a monitor, like on the internet, you can be whoever you want to be. And it's a powerful tool, but it doesn't necessarily convey truth. I feel bad sometimes because I haven't even really had discussions with a great deal of my followers, just the people I know. But yet we kind of know each other exist, because I'll always notice the same people are kind of reblogging my posts. Not my original posts, my reblog posts. And then I'll reblog theirs because I find we're generally interested in the same things. So it's kind of cool. Anyway, I hope I didn't go too much off topic. I was just kind of having a little rant, but trying to keep it relevant. So, oh, my voice went really deep. Looking forward to seeing what everyone else has to say as fellow Tumblr users and how it impacts your identity. See you around. Bye. Bye.
For goodness sake. So apart from the fact that I met Bec on Tumblr, so it's kind of appropriate that, you know, she'd be in my Tumblr video, she's actually a communications major, is that right?
Cultural studies.
Cultural studies.
My minor is communications.
Communications.
Jeez, get
so,
it right.
Yeah, so she studies a lot about, like, social media and the construction of identities via social media. So,
yeah, well,
resident expert?
Not really.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very, like, broad topic area, like cultural studies.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, study identity and construction of identity and social media and lifestyle and subcultures and...
Which
so
is
like,
Tumblr in a nutshell. Yeah. I found Fionn and Maya and Sara. Their videos were really interesting to me as a person who uses Tumblr because I related to a lot of what they were saying, particularly about how they feel this sense of discomfort when somebody they know from real life finds them on Tumblr. What is it about Tumblr that's so different from Facebook, for example?
it's just
Like, why are we so averse to the idea of Tumblr and Facebook being connected and people on Facebook seeing what we do on Tumblr? Facebook is this kind of polite environment where, you know, you've got friends, so like colleagues and people from high school and just all these people that, you know, you don't necessarily want them to know your, you know, innermost thoughts and feelings. And so you interact with them in this kind of polite, small talk kind of way. But on Tumblr, you're like, oh, I'm in love with this person, or, you know, I feel so deeply and strongly about this thing, and you'd be mortified for people on Facebook to know about it.
yeah, I think that's kind of interesting in terms of like the idea of the brand itself, and you're like branding yourself in a particular way, but also that then you become the brand of the website as well. So like, do you know what I mean? Like,
No, not really.
I mean, like Facebook is constructed in a way so that you become the brand because it relies on you for content.
Does it mean that we have compartmentalized ourselves, and so, you know, we've got different versions of ourselves for different people in different contexts? Does that mean that we're being inauthentic? Does that mean that we're pretending or putting on an image? Or are they all uniquely valid?
That's such an old thing. Like, it's not new to like the internet. Like, if you look at like Goffman and the performance of self and how...
So who's Goffman, sorry?
He's a sociologist guy.
Okay, Goffman, sociologist, cool.
I think. Yeah, something like that. He's a guy, you know, and he had the idea that like there's a front stage and a backstage and you're always performing for a different audience, like very differently depending on the audience. And like whether you can actually have a true self or not, because there's always some influence. And I feel like, yeah, like different social networking sites are just kind of a representation of that in real life, because you're not gonna like in class you'll be a different person to who you are like at home, and etc, etc. It's all good.
That's so interesting to me, like the impossibility of having an identity that stays the same in every situation.
Yeah, and like I feel like there's an impossibility of true self.
Are we even familiar ourselves with our purest form of identity? Like, who are we purely?
Can there be a true
without
self? Like, it doesn't.
Is there such a thing?
Ooh.
Whoa. Like, I'm constantly trying to figure out what is my identity, but it's so complex and there's so many different versions of myself that I can never come to a consensus of like one way to present myself that will be authentically true.
Kill me now.
Yep.
Cute, adorable bunny.
When you don't have a point, just fill the video with adorable animals.
This whole video is an outtake.
Please leave a video response and comment and subscribe.
Get any
and subscribe to
coherence out of
Bec
that.
and subscribe to me. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
Follow us on Tumblr. Well, no.
Don't follow me on Tumblr. Alright, see ya. Bye.
Let's go out back and plant a family tree.